Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Storytime with Miss Morgan here at the Tennessee State Museum. I am so excited for July's Book of the Month because we are partnering with the Governor's Early Literacy Foundation. So this month our book is called Me on the Map by Joan Sweeney, illustrated by Annette Cable. And I'm pretty excited because I love maps. My dad was a history teacher, and he also taught geography. So when I was a little kid, we always had lots of maps around my house, so I always thought they were really fun. And that was always the cool thing about going on summer vacation, is that they always need somebody to navigate. So a lot of times I would help, and I would be the navigator with the map. So I'm pretty excited about our book today, but before we get started, let's check our schedule. Let's go sing our welcome song. Come on. Are you guys ready to sing our good morning song? So before we get started, let's practice and warm up those talking hands. So remember, our signs are happy and good morning. So let's practice one more time. So happy, take your hands like you're fanning yourself, say happy. And good morning, take the fingers to your chin and say good morning. Great job, you guys are doing such a wonderful job. Good job. All right, so remember, we're gonna sing it twice. So you ready? Good morning to you, and how do you do? I'm happy to see you. Good morning to you. Oh, great job. Ready again? Say, good morning to you. And how do you do? I'm happy to see you. Good morning to you. Oh, great job. Good, 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 good. Are you guys ready? It's now time for story time. Let's go. Good job, everybody. Give yourself a big pat on the back. Big round of applause. You guys are doing such a fantastic job with that song. So let's take off the welcome song, and it's now time for our story. Me on the map. This is me. This is me in my room. This is a map of my room. This is me on the map of my room. So let's see. She has her bed, and there are her rugs, and her side table and lamp, and her desk. And look, most importantly, there's her cat. This is my house. This is a map of my house. This is my room on the map of my house. So let's see. Here's her house. So it looks like there's the garage, and the patio, and the kitchen, and the living room. And there's her mom and dad's room, and her brother's room, and there's a bathroom. That's a pretty cool looking house. She did a good job with this map too. This is my street. This is a map of my street. This is my house on the map of my street. So you see how she has put everybody's houses on the street? So these are her neighbors. And she lives on Oak Street, and her address is 1234. This is my town. This is a map of my town. This is my street on the map of my town. So here's her town. You can see this is her street over here. So you look on here, you can kind of see where it says Oak Street, and it goes all the way over there. So she's mapping out her town. This is my state. This is a map of my state. This is my town on the map of my state. Let's see, where does she live? Let's look. Kansas. And look, I bet these are some of their state symbols like we have. This is my country, the United States of America. This is a map of my country. This is my state on the map of my country. All right, so let's look at the United States of America. So here's Kansas. And look, we here at the Tennessee State Museum are right here in Tennessee. We're here in Nashville. And look, we have lots of states that touch us. There's Kentucky and Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Missouri. Wow. So you can actually go from Nashville all the way to Kansas. It's a pretty long drive, but it's not too bad. I have a friend that lives in Kansas, and she goes home a lot. And that's not too bad of a drive. Whoa. This is my world. It's called Earth. It looks like a giant ball. If you could unroll the world and make it flat, it would look something like this map of the world. This is my country on the map of the world. So see, we live right here in the United States, and we're in North America. Wow, look at all these cool places. You can travel to almost all of these countries. I once had a friend that went all the way to Antarctica and she got to see penguins. How cool is that? But that's a really long way from the United States. That was a long plane ride. See, here's how I find my special place on the map. First, I look at the map of the world and find my country. Then I look at the map of my country and find my state. Then I look at the map of my state and find my town. So it looks like, if you see here, Kansas, she lives in Pleasant Grove. So it says Kansas and there's Topeka. That's their capital. So Pleasant Grove is not too far from their capital. Then I look at the map of my town and I find my street. And on my street, I find my house. And in my house, I find my room. And in my room, I find me. Just think. In rooms and houses, on streets and towns, in countries all over the world, everybody has their own special place on the map. Wow. Let's look at this. Look at all of these cool kids from around the world. They're doing all kinds of interesting things. Let's see, there's he's playing baseball, and she has, I think that's a sheep, and then he's reading an atlas, and all kinds of cool things. Just like me on the map. Do you see how she's drawn her own map and her own house and her own world? The end. I love this book because it's one of those books that kind of helps us start to learn about maps. So I know that the year is 2021, and so a lot of times we don't even have to use a paper map like the one behind me. We have maps on our phones. So usually whenever I'm driving somewhere and I don't know the directions, I used to have to look at a map and I'd have to plan out how I was going to go. I'd have to look up what interstate I was going to take and other things like that. But now all I do is I just type into Google Maps or I go to Waze and I'm like, this is my address I'm going to. And it just tells me the directions, and that's great. But we should all probably still learn how to read a map because sometimes we just don't have that technology. Your phone might die, or if you have a GPS in your car, it might be kind of wonky. And so it's always good to start learning maps. And what I love about this one is she's also learning about her place in the world. So we all have a place in the world. And so hers is in her house, in her town, in her state, in her city, in her state, in the country, in the world. And it's really neat. And what I like, though, is I have this map behind me. So you guys, you can go to pretty much any rest stop in your home state and grab a map of your state. You could probably even just request one if I had to guess. But get one and then learn about where you live. So we live right here in Nashville. So I grew up in a place called Columbia. So I could take this interstate from Columbia all the way into Nashville. And then if I wanted to, I could go visit my aunt that used to live all the way in Memphis. And then, you could take all kinds of things. I went to school in Murfreesboro. So this map right here can show me all those places that I could travel to, which is really neat. So I think one of the things you could do is find a map of your state and figure out a place to go. Pick a place on the map. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to make our own map. So before we get done, though, let's take off our story time. So you remember in our story how she drew her own maps? So what I would like you guys to do, let's see if I can find the picture of her maps. So she has all these cool maps. So she drew a map of her room, and of her house, and then of her neighborhood. So I thought that might be something really fun for you guys to do. See if you can draw your house or even just your room or your street, or you can use your imagination and you can create a whole new world, because that's what authors do for us when they create a story. So if you have ever watched Winnie the Pooh, that's one of my favorite stories as a kid. He created an entire world, and there's a map that you can look at and it shows you where all of those creatures live. So what I decided to do is I decided to make my own map of Miss Morgan's Storybook Land. So if I was able to build my own neighborhood of my favorite storybooks, this is what it would look like. So we have a hobbit hole, and you take this brick path over here to the little house in the prairie cabin, and then you could take this path and go to Winnie the Pooh's house, or go over to Hagrid's hut. And so it was really fun to kind of think about how I would map out my storybook land. So I think you guys are going to do a wonderful job creating your own map. So like I said, you can make a map of your house or your room or your neighborhood or even your city, or just make something up. That's one of the wonderful things about having an imagination is you can create anything you want to, and I can't wait to see them. So if you draw anything, make sure to post it on social media so we can check it out. We do like looking at those. And before we head out though, we have to check out our artifact. So let's take off our activity. It's time for our artifact. Now our artifact for today is right here. It is a map of Tennessee. It's a very, very old map of Tennessee. And so what you used to have to do before they had things like today, we can take a satellite picture. So we have these big satellites in space and they can take pictures of, the country, of states, of cities, and they can kind of make this really cool picture for us that we can then use to make a map. Well, before all that technology though, you would have someone called a cartographer go out and they would actually walk the land and they would make you a map. And so this is a really old map from the 1800s of Tennessee. So someone would have had to walk all along our state to find all of these trails and cities and things like that and where to place them. So before we had lots of cities, it was just wilderness. So they would have just marked wilderness, things like that. But most importantly, their biggest thing was they needed to mark the rivers and the lakes and the creeks because those are really important for our travelers. So it was a really cool job, one that was really important too. So I hope you guys enjoyed our artifact. We have lots of maps here at the Tennessee State Museum. So if you come visit us, you'll definitely see a few around the museum. But you guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And guess what? I will see you next month at Storytime with Miss Morgan. We have another great Governor's Early Literacy Foundation summer reading book to read. I'm really looking forward to it. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your July, and we'll see you next month. Bye, everybody.